Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Gilgo Four. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we're going to be deep diving or continuing the deep dive on the Long Island serial killer case. The suspect is Rex Heuermann. We're going to be recapping some of just the latest events, the latest searches, the press conference that we watched together about 2 days ago. That was on June 6th. And then also the 137-page bail application document that we just read, which had a lot of details, horrible details, heartbreaking details. But I just want to go over some of the points there. This would be kind of part one of doing that because there's so much to discuss that we could literally sit here for hours. I've been in this rabbit hole for very long, and it's once you get in there, I mean, good luck getting out, because it's a lot. Okay, so remember that this case, of course, the whole case comes with a trigger warning. True crime does in general, but this serial killer case and just what is being revealed little by little about Rex Heuermann is horrendous. He's probably going to be one of the most prolific serial killers of our time, you know. And I hope he hates that, you know, because sometimes they want the fame. Kathleen says, your haircut looks oulik. Ach, dankie man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had my haircut, everyone. And I also hope that the microphone sounds better. I had a beautiful carpet put into my studio now and, you know, things to help the sound. So if you are on Patreon, you could check out the pictures there of how the studio looks now. If you want to see some behind the scenes, it's all on Patreon. We have a community chat there as well. And yesterday I took all my patrons on a walk in Zurich on 5th Avenue, the 5th Avenue of Zurich. So if you want to see stuff like that behind the scenes, come along with me when I do actually go outside the house. That's where to do it. So welcome to all my moderators. Thank you so much for everything you do. Welcome to all my members, subscribers. We now have 303,000 Grizzlies. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, everyone who's here. To all the locals as well. There's lots of locals that join our chat and share really insightful information as we're discussing it. So thank you so much for being here as well. Anyone who's new here. I am South African. If you're wondering if you knew, where's this lady from? I'm from South Africa and I'm living in Switzerland with my husband, Mr. Grizzly, as we call him. Thank you, Nurse Janice, for being a member for 14 months. Okay, so are we now ready for this deep dive? In this deep dive, by the way, I also went and bought Mindhunter, the book that Rex Heuermann supposedly studied, not for self-awareness, you know, or to think, why am I like this? Allegedly. No, to evade capture. And it seemed like he did so successfully for about 30 years. That's a lot. That's a lot to even process. All right. So, Didi Reynolds is asking a question that hopefully the moderators can answer over there. Things happen when you move country. Okay. So let's get this presentation going. I've been working on this for a while for you because if you're like me, and I know many of you are. That's why we're a wonderful community over here. All of us are very similar. We like visual timelines. When you hear from the documents and the press conference, you got DA Ray Tierney just spitting out fact after fact after fact, and you're like, what? Then we go through the document, it's like, all right, layer one. But still, what? Like, how can we visualize all of this that we're learning? So that's what I'm going to bring to you today. I really enjoy making these for you because it certainly helps me out as well to understand this, and I hope it will help you too. Thank you, Mons. All right, so firstly, may there be justice for the victims and their families. Remember that these are real people. This really happened to these people. They were murdered in the most horrendous ways. And, you know, often I say that no answers might be worse, but I don't know, man. In a case like this, maybe no answers are better. You know what I mean? It's so terrible for the families to now have to learn pretty much at the same pace as us as well of what happened to their loved ones. And it's so terrible. It's some ogre, coward, allegedly him. He's the suspect, right? He's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But man, the evidence is starting to really stack up against him. It's just terrible how they were used, abused, murdered, discarded. So Okay, also, lastly, before I dive into this presentation, if you don't know anything about this case, please check out the description box. There's a playlist link there for you, or you could just go to my playlist section and find the LISK playlist. That was difficult. The LISK, Long Island Serial Killer, playlist, okay? So we've done a lot of deep dives, presentations. We might actually look at revisit a previous one today, which is Rex Heuermann by year. We looked at his life at every stage, just to try to figure out where was he living, what was he doing, who's his mom, who's his dad, what happened, does he have siblings, all that stuff. We've answered that already, but we might go over some of that again today, depending on how long this stream is, okay? So let me just make sure everything's smooth there. Yes, silly pick. You said learning with everyone and this group. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. We've got GH discussions in the house. Hello to you. Okay. So the victims' names that we know of so far, the 6 murders that Rex Heuermann has been charged with are Sandra Costilla, and this is in chronological order, Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. So let's remember them and their families. And if families are watching, I hope that you feel safe here with us to discuss this case. Although I'll totally understand if you turn away at any moment when we start discussing Rex Heuermann and his life and his house and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's look at the press conference. So on June 6th of 2024, there was a press conference and we learned a lot of information. 2 additional murder charges were added to Rex Heuermann's superseding indictment, which does mean there'll be one trial for all these charges, not going to be on trial 6 separate times or even 2 separate times. So the 2 additional murder charges, DA District Attorney Ray Tierney says these are allegations that need to be proven in court, and they look forward to doing that. This is a collaborative case, including the FBI, the Secret Service, K9 units, and so many other departments, and they are working the case aggressively, is what the district attorney said. So there's 3 murder 1 charges and 6 murder 2 charges. And District Attorney Ray Tierney explained on News Nation with Chris Como why that is. And it's about in New York, every state is different. A murder 1 charge means first degree murder. Obviously, this seems all the murders of this guy are very premeditated. So one would wonder, why aren't they all first degree murder charges? District Attorney Ray Tierney explained it's because of how the law works there, that it would be about the amount of time between each. So there's 3 murder 1 charges for 3 out of the 4 Gilgo Four murders that they were able to connect to Rex Heuermann, all occurring within 18 months. So that's first degree murder. The others are second degree murder charges because of the time span between them. Okay. So what triggered the second search of Rex Heuermann's home? So I'm going to be asking myself and us these questions, which might seem like basic questions, but it really helps to ask yourself these questions to see if we know what is the answer, like what actually triggered the search of Rex Heuermann's home. Well, they said on March 7th of 2024, they became aware of a document that Rex Heuermann had created, a Microsoft Word document, which is a blueprint. They refer to it as a blueprint or a planning document for the murders that he would commit. So that's scary. We did look at all of this. If you've never watched the read-through of that entire 137-page document, that is also on the playlist. We just did it the day before yesterday, I think it is. So go and check that out. There's no interruptions. I just read it from the top to the bottom. You can get all the information there. So it would probably be a good idea as well. Hello to MB Inc. I see people are greeting MB Inc. So hello to you. Welcome. Wait, I'm trying to find. Raul is also here. Okay, Catch LISK. Hello to MB Inc. Hello to Catch LISK. Raul. It's wonderful to have you here in chat with us. Okay, so that's quite something that they discovered this document on March 7th of 2024. As we know, Rex Heuermann was arrested in July of 2023. So to have that document then, whoa, okay. So he created this document, which was detailed in that bail application, 137-page document we went through. So they said the reason they went back to the house was because it was a necessary investigative step to then search, because remember, they went to Manaville, then the North Sea area, which is in Southampton, still in New York. And then that was fascinating. Like, oh, are they looking into John Bitrolf? You know, another killer, which we've discussed before. We could deep dive that guy at some point as well. But is that what they're doing? Why are they going to Manorville? Why are there K9 units there? What is this search all about, right? And then they went to the North Sea area, and then suddenly there they were at his home searching again. Well, they said it was a necessary investigative step after finding this document, which had a lot of details in, and they had to go and revisit the home, particularly to look at, for example, the wood paneling in the basement. They wanted to see if there were signs of him using push pins and tape, on basically the ceiling, the wood paneling, maybe like cornices on the ceiling like that, where he would put drop cloths and things like that, like a Dexter's room. Like if you've ever watched Dexter, like the kill rooms he made, it sounds like something like that if you were to visualize it. So they went there and they said they did find signs of adhesive tape and push pins on the wood paneling in the basement. They also found a John Douglas book, but not the one that Rex Heuermann referenced in his document. So we're going to get to that as well. Now, here's a just quick recap, just so that we're all on the same page. We like bullet points over here. If you're brand new here, love visual timelines, bullet points, maps, documents, all that kind of nerdy stuff. All right, so Jesse, it is called the North Sea area in North Fork. I've looked at this several times and on the map because people that are local, I see you guys have got some lingo about that area. But yes, it is the North Sea area, Southampton, around North Fork. 50 Fish Cove Road, right, is where it was. That's where Sandra Costilla's remains were found, which is why they were searching there, which was very interesting. Now, just a quick recap here. Rex Heuermann is now 60 years old. He was arrested in New York City on July 13th of 2023, so when he was 59. He was charged with 3 murders initially. Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, and Melissa Barthelomew's murder. 3 out of the Gilgo Four, as the Gilgo Four were known. Why were they known as the Gilgo Four? Well, because it was 4 women's remains found with these like wrapped in burlap, and there was belts, and it seemed like the same MO, and so they categorized those 4 together, even though later they, of course, also found more bodies. Total of 10, and if you include Shannan Gilbert, 11 on one stretch of beach pretty much, and then so it went. So then, July of 2023, there was a 12-day search of Rex Heuermann's home. So if you remember that, 12 days of searching his house, so it was very shocking to see them go back and do yet another 6-day search of his home. That's a lot of searching, but there's a lot of stuff in the home, and one must remember, that's his childhood home. One could speculate he's never left the home. There is an address that he may have been associated with a short time when he was married for the first time, but it seems to me that he never left the home. His dad died when he was 12 years old, so his mom lived there for a time, and then she moved out eventually. I think it was also around 1993 when his first divorce happened. She moved out and went to different areas. So whether it was assisted living or retirement or whatever it was, yes. So this is his childhood home. So imagine it would be all his parents' stuff, all his siblings' stuff, unless, of course, they removed it all. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff collected there in a childhood home. Then the first marriage, then the second marriage, then the kids from the second marriage. There's so much clutter in there. And they did describe it, the investigators, as a bit of a cluttered house, a bit of a hoarder's house is what it was speculated. So maybe that would also be why, but upon discovering that document on one of Rex Heuermann's laptops, because they seized many electronic items, we're going to do a whole bullet point list of exactly what they seized there as well with the electronic devices. This document revealed to them, we got to go back to that basement area, which was like his gun room, the vault, whatever. We got to go back there and just like check the wood paneling, and that's apparently part of what they were removing. But we also saw them carry out dog beds and backpacks and music boxes and just pretty much everything. So I think they're just going to check everything, right? Lisa, welcome. All right, so on January 16th of 2024, Rex Heuermann was charged with the murder of Maureen Brainard Barnes. So that was the Gilgo Four. And then the district attorney said they're going to expand their investigation now beyond the Gilgo Four and see if there's any other cases that they could connect to Rex Heuermann, which now has turned out to be at least 2 more. And I would speculate there will be many more, which is devastating. So then in April of 2024, they searched this Manorville area. And then April 27th of 2024, this North Sea search area, Southampton, New York. And then May 20th of 2024, there was a 6-day search of his home. And then on June 6th of 2024, he was charged with the murder of Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor. Right? So, and look at him there. I think he's, I never want to fat shame on this channel. I don't stand for that. I don't like that. But when it comes to criminals and alleged serial killers like this, sometimes we get snarky. And all I want to say is that he asked another serial killer in a letter, do you get real butter on your bread? And one could speculate he might be getting real butter now. I think he's picked up some weight in jail. You know what I mean? Anyway, there he is. That was the most recent photo of him from his most recent court appearance. Okay, so we're going to look at this visual timeline now. And then we're also going to look at, well, why did they charge Rex Heuermann with these 2 new murder charges? Because did they find anything in Maneville in the North Sea area at his home? Or how were they able to charge this, right? Okay, so are we ready for this visual timeline? Catch LISK. You say, no butter for Rex. Hashtag no butter for Rex. Yes. I mean, the fact that he's also not really talking, but yet writing to another serial killer, which is Keith Jesperson, the happy face killer. Oh my word. And asking, do you get real butter on your bread and all kinds of things. Like, it's not really what an innocent person would do, right? Interesting also how so many serial killers just keep quiet, especially leading up to a trial. Why does he not just plead guilty? Of course, they're not the type. They would love to taunt families, cause as much harm as possible, it seems, right? And hardly ever take responsibility for what they've done, even when they want to be famous. Remember Ted Bundy? He would confess to some, but not all, and right before he was executed. If you didn't know, I wrote 4 books on serial killers before I became a YouTuber. I then became a YouTuber because staying in that mental space with one serial killer at a time for many months was just very not good. Not so great for mental health to just stay like in the crawl space with John Wayne Gacy. It gets very dark and lonely. And so I really appreciate this community where we could talk about true crime and not one case for months on end, stuck in that mental space. We could all engage, chat, and hopefully learn from these cases together, right? Arlene said, love the bullet points. Proud to be part of the Grizzly family. Keep being awesome, Grizzly. Thank you for being a member for 32 months. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now here, let's go like this. I'm going to try and make myself a little bit smaller so that you could see this really nicely. Again, this is chronological. It takes some time to make, of course, so I hope it makes sense, right? Wildfire says, your books are great, G. Oh, thank you so much. I've also got audio books if you want to hear them. Okay, so I do like to study serial killers because I'm always fascinated by how they can compartmentalize their lives. And still, these are obviously the more organized ones. They can compartmentalize their lives and get away with this for so long. And Rex Heuermann is one of those as well, where it looks like 30 years, speculatively, of what he got away with, okay? Now, chronologically, the 6, we obviously going to add to this, I think. I think we're obviously going to add to this eventually. But for now, Rex Heuermann's been charged with 6 murders. So, Sandra Costilla, I wrote on the pictures, second degree, the charges that he's facing. So 2nd degree murder for the murders of Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, and Maureen Brainard Barnes. And then for Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Evelyn Costello, it's also 2nd degree, but they were then able to charge him with 1st degree murder on top of that because of the time span between them all. So just so that you can see chronologically when this happened, right? Welcome, Alfonso. Sandra Costilla was 28 years old, and she was murdered November 19th to 20th of 1993. Her body was found on November 20th of 1993, and she was strangled, partially clothed, and they said that she was stabbed post-mortem, which is very scary. But when you think of, if you read through that document with me or listened as I read it to you, when you think of Rex Heuermann the whole time writing what a disorganized killer or serial killer would mean versus an organized one, I think that he did things sometimes, and I'm speculating now, I think sometimes he did things to try to appear more like a disorganized serial killer because he was definitely studying that, the difference between them and what they do and what it means. And so sometimes this like post-mortem stabbing, for example, I think one, that's a lot of pent-up rage there being expressed, and he would have been 30 years old at the time, But 2, it could also be something to throw people off. We know that some serial killers, they plant evidence around the scene, put a cigarette butt, a piece of gum, a shoe, something random to throw the investigators off. So I'm thinking that he may have tried to throw them off to evade detection, of course, and capture, which again, a good job to the task force, especially the special task force that was formed in 2022 for finding him and arresting him. All right, so he was 30 years old when that happened, right? Now, Jessica Taylor, she was 20 years old, and she was last seen July 19th of 2003. Rex Heuermann at the time was 39 years old. Now, this is the first, and so far, only official case tied to Rex Heuermann that was a dismemberment case, which of course changes everything, because this case already of Sandra Costilla, well, that goes back more than a decade than they originally thought, right? Based on the Gilgo Four. So now they've opened the doors to investigating so many other crimes all the way back to 1993. I would again speculate it could go further back eventually. And of course, we still don't know what he did between 2010 and 2024. Okay, so Jessica Taylor, she was 20 years old. She last spoke to her mom on the phone on July 21st of 2003. And she was murdered between July 21st and 26th of 2003. That's when his family was apparently away as well. That's what the document said. And her torso was found on July 26th of 2003. And then later, look how much later, March 29th of 2011, her skull, hands, and forearm were found. And that was closer to that Gilgo Beach area, right? Again, Rex Heuermann was 39 years old. So now we get to the Gilgo Four, Maureen Brainard Barnes. I put the little phone symbol there because he taunted some of the family members. He would phone friends or family of these victims and say terrible things. If you don't remember what he said, we did have a presentation with that before, right? Okay. So, yeah, all right. We're just looking here. So second-degree murder is what he's charged with. Now, she was 25 years old, last seen July 9th of 2007. Her body was found on December 13th of 2010. They say these victims were asphyxiated, which is very similar to Sandra Costilla, but they were not dismembered. Why is a question people ask now. If he was dismembering before and then not, well, serial killers can and often do change their MOs, their modus operandi, obviously to evade detection and capture. And then also, too, because he aged. We don't know if he had like a back problem all of a sudden or couldn't do it anymore, or if he just thought, this is just so unnecessary. It's a lot of, it sounds horrible to say, but from obviously studying people like Jeffrey Dahmer, it's a lot of work to dismember bodies, especially if one is a serial killer like Rex Heuermann. So you're doing it over and over, like what the hell? So maybe that's why he stopped. We don't know, but he didn't dismember the Gilgo Four, right? So Melissa Bartholomew, 24 years old, last seen July 10th of 2009. Her body was found December 11th of 2010, and Rex Heuermann was 45 years old. Megan Waterman, 22 years old, last seen July 6th of 2010. Her body was found December 13th of 2010, and she was also asphyxiated as all the Gilgo Four, I think they were. Catch LISK, if you hear if that is correct or not correct, please let me know as well. That's what I've read, is that they were all allegedly asphyxiated. Of course, these remains, the Gilgo Four, were skeletonized. These two, Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor, they found their bodies quite soon after they were murdered, so there was more evidence to work with. Unfortunately, with the Gilgo Four, it took quite a few years, as you can see. And then Amber Lynn Costello, 27 years old, last seen September 2nd of 2010. Her body was found on December 13th of 2010. And Rex Heuermann then was 47 years old. So as you can see, I don't know, he was getting older. Maybe he was getting lazier. Maybe he had a back problem. Maybe he just felt like, let me just change up my MO. Maybe, I don't know. But I definitely think that he was evolving. Oh, I hate saying that, but I think he was evolving as a serial killer, especially because he was studying Mindhunter and books like that to try, to evade capture. He wasn't studying that to understand himself better or to look in the mirror. No, it's literally to try to stay one step ahead of detectives the whole time. Catch LISK, thank you. You said officially we were told asphyxiation. Okay, thank you. That's what I thought as well. I always like Catch LISK, if you guys don't know, you've got to follow Catch LISK on X. He's got some excellent links on his link tree and his bio as well, and really knows a lot about this case. Okay, so I hope that this visual timeline helps a little bit, because you might wonder, well, in what order did these specific 6 victims disappear? When? When were they last seen? When were their bodies found? What is the difference between the cases? How did the MO change? Why did it change? How old was Rex Heuermann at the time? All of that. So I hope that this overview helps. If anyone does screenshot it and share it on social media, I always appreciate it when you tag me or credit me or things like that. Sometimes YouTubers want to show it or something. That's fine too, as long as you tag me, put the link in there. I always really appreciate that. I always do that as well for sources or resources that I have, right? Okay, so let's continue. All right, so thank you all for being here. By the way, if you're just joining now, I hope you'll watch the replay so that you understand what exactly we're doing here today. We're doing a deep dive, of course, on the press conference, information we learned, the document we just read, and the new charges. Now, and there's some interesting points to discuss, and as I say, I could literally sit here for hours and hours and hours, probably months with you and talk about this case, even just on what we have so far, but I'm going to try to keep it concise, right? Now, on March 7th of 2024, they became aware of this document that Rex Heuermann had created, which is a blueprint or planning document for the murders that he would commit, is what they're saying, allegedly. Of course, his defense attorney, I can bet, Michael Brown, is going to say, well, how do we know he wrote it? How do we know that he's the author of that document? He's probably going to say that, of course. And how do we know? Well, it sounds a lot like there's a lot of coincidences and a lot of dots that are connected. And of course, we, the public, we don't know even half of it, right? Law enforcement will tell you. The public knows maybe 10% of what's going on in the case while it's being investigated. And when the PCA comes out or things like that, documents, maybe 50%. There's so much, as we can see, going on behind the scenes. We've been wondering for a few weeks now. It feels like months. I don't know. Time flies. What's happening in the case? You know, what's going to happen next? And it's just like the next minute, all of this happens. And it's like, oh my goodness. So therefore, again, it was a necessary investigative step to search the Mandible area, this North Sea area, and Heuermann's home. At his home, they did find signs of this adhesive tape and push pins on the wood paneling in the basement. I'm just reminding you because we're going to go through snippets of the document again so you can see what I'm talking about. And they also found a John Douglas book, but not the one that RH referenced, which was this one, The Cases That Haunt Us. That is the book that they found in his home office, which later, on another interview, District Attorney Ray Tierney said was actually in the basement. Ray Tierney has done an interview with Chris Como on News Nation, and he's also done an interview with News 12, and you've got to listen very carefully there. I'm like, wait, where? Because in one place he might say it was found in his home office, and then in another interview he'll say it was found in the basement area with some other personal belongings. You put that together, okay, so he had a home office in his basement with other personal belongings, like where the gun room is. It's a full basement under this house, by the way. If I looked at the property records, is what I could find. So this book was found there amongst his personal belongings, and clearly he was studying that. Now, with the pages that he references in his own notes from this little Microsoft Word document, it's not referenced from this book. He's literally referencing pages from the Mindhunter book, particularly the 1996 first edition paperback copy. Now, I did go and download the Mindhunter book from Kindle, and it said it was published originally in 1998, right? This version of it, the book, even though I've got the Kindle version. The point is, the pages are slightly different, but yeah, you can definitely see what they were talking about. Is Joe Jack alone here? Are you finished furniture shopping, Joe Jack alone? I hope it was successful. Joe Jack alone, if you have never checked out his channel, do check it out. He is a retired sergeant from the NYPD, a professor, he's an author, he's written textbooks and books that you might enjoy as well on Amazon, and he was recently on the show, so go check it out on the playlist because you'll find all his links there in the description box as well. Now, just showing you some pictures of some of the stuff they carried out, because we were like, whoa, that's a lot of things they carried out. You know, we're just watching all of this going on for 6 days. So now, we know now what triggered the search. It's the discovery of that document called HK 2002-04 that Rex Heuermann had tried to delete. Of course, the Secret Service rolled in and they busted his ass. They found the document that he tried to delete. I just wonder what else did he try to delete that they may not have obviously found yet, which is why they're continuing the investigation. I think they're going to find more things. But what evidence likely led to the 2 new murder charges? Well, they said the crime scenes closely resembled the violent PORN collected from Rex Heuermann's home, and internet searches and the violent stuff that he was looking at dates back to 1994. Okay, so the crime scenes were already similar to what's in the content that he had in his home and on his internet searches. Welcome, Catty, no chatty. Now, this is what led to the 2 murder charges, because obviously we want to know what evidence do they have. I know we're all dying to know, what is it? What did they find in that house? What did they find in these other searches? Well, it was more about the forensic evidence like this. On Sandra Costilla, right, when they found her remains, they found 1 male hair. Now, I'm saying matches because that's really layman's terms. You'll always hear district attorneys correcting people when the media says, did it match Rex Heuermann? They're like, well, it was similar to, it's a 99.96 more likelihood that it's Rex Heuermann's hair rather than somebody else, right? So that's a very long sentence. So I'm saying it as layman's terms, it matches Rex Heuermann. It's very, very likely with big numbers and lots of zeros that it's Rex Heuermann's hair. There was 1 male hair that matches Rex Heuermann found at this crime scene with the victim. And there was 1 female hair on the victim's right arm that matched the female who lived with Heuermann in 1993, which I would speculate, and catch LISK Raoul said, yes, ex-wife. I don't have solid proof that it's his ex-wife, but that's who was living with him at the time. And she had actually just moved out 2 months before this murder was committed then. They got divorced, right? So, there was also 1 unidentified female hair recovered in 2014, as in still unidentified. They don't know whose hair that is, so that's interesting as well. Who, like, will that end up being another victim? Somebody who was at the house? I don't know. But that is how they were able to charge Rex Heuermann with Sandra Costilla's murder so far. Now, obviously, going into the house and the area and everything, they're going to find more, even more. But just for us, so that we know, well, how, that's how. Hunters discovered her body in North Sea, Southampton, New York in November of 1993, and she was stabbed more than 25 times, likely post-mortem is what the district attorney said. Now, Jessica Taylor, how were they able to charge Rex Heuermann with her murder? 1 male hair was found between the surgical drape. Okay, red flag. Like, what is he buying surgical drapes for? Well, obviously he's doing the worst, but okay. Surgical drape and the body, which was a torso, which matches, again, I'm saying that word for layman's terms, Rex Heuermann. It's more likely to be his than anyone else's. 1 male hair matches Rex Heuermann. There was also a mutilated tattoo that was recognized by those who knew Jessica, which they then could see it said Remy's Angel. And the mutilating of the tattoo is interesting as well, especially when we look at the document that he created that said HK 2002 to 2004, because as you could see, at this point, after he'd written the document, which was originally created in 2000, he mutilated tattoos. So the document is a huge piece of evidence, right? Now, Rex Heuermann's family was traveling at the time of this murder. She was murdered in July of 2023. And somebody saw a dark-colored pickup truck seen backed into the woods. And then right after that, he tried to buy another Chevy Avalanche. He sure likes his Chevy Avalanches. I'm sure they're practical for the types of things that he does. Anyway, and so he was looking for a white one or what did they call that? A rival blue was the color. Trying to get another one, but it doesn't seem like he actually bought another one. He just had his dark green Chevy Avalanche that I think he eventually gave to his brother. And then he bought another dark green one. Remember that? Wow, because they went to South Carolina to actually get that Chevy from his brother. Wow. Okay, so why surgical drape? Now, as you can see, I hope that this will all make sense. Hopefully you're going to stay and watch this whole thing today through from the beginning to the end, because it'll make sense that way. If you just see one little bit, it might not all make sense. We've got to stay in it so that what I prepared here makes sense. We're looking at the timeline, right? We first had an overview of the 6th victim. Now we're looking what evidence likely led to the 2 new murder charges. Well, DNA evidence, hair on the victims, matching Rex Heuermann. and his ex-wife. Now, again, is everybody going to go after his ex-wife and say, was she involved too? I think that would also help give Asa some more brownie points of like, see, the ex-wife's hair was also on one of the victims. I'm not trying to give Asa brownie points. I'm just neutral. I'm staying neutral about it, rather the benefit of the doubt than just completely saying she's involved, especially now with a new document. I mean, it's again, she was out of state, right? And as you know, if you ever watched Joe Jacalone's show, very good. He's also said one could speculate that she knew about, his sexual escapades, or maybe hiring sex workers or something, but maybe not the extent to where he went, like murdering them, like being a serial killer, right? Anyway, so I know very divided opinions there about Asa Ellerup, his wife, but I'm just saying that there was a hair of his ex-wife found on one of the victims too. So just keep that in mind. Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. Really appreciate that. Okay, so why surgical drape? Well, because he evolved. How do we know he evolved? Well, it gets speculated. But for example, we're going to look at the case of Peaches and Baby Doe in a moment. And Peaches and Baby Doe, the partial remains of Peaches was found with a floral pillowcase and a blanket. And that was before the murder of Jessica Taylor, right? And just think of how distinct the Peaches tattoo was. That it was the one thing that it was the police were like, have you seen this tattoo? Do you know who this is? She's still known as Peaches. So I think if he's not yet connected to Peaches and Baby Doe, if he ever is, well, then one could say, oh, so he learned from that in 1997 to never again let a tattoo be as it is. Because then the police and the public and everyone's going to be looking for that person based on their tattoo, which would be pretty obvious. But serial killers make mistakes too. They're human too. Hardly, but you know what I mean. Okay, so possible charges in the future. Let's first look at this. Ones that we could speculate. Could he possibly be tied to these? I think he could. Number one, Karen Vergara. There was a press conference that happened a few months ago where they actually identified Fire Island Jane Doe, and they said her name is Karen Vergara, we watched it together. It's also on the playlist if you didn't see that, if you just want to revisit it. That was quite a day of, finally knowing the name of that Jane Doe. Fire Island Jane Doe, Karen Vergara. Now, she was last seen on Valentine's Day in 1996. She was 34 years old. And on April 20th of 1996, 2 legs were found wrapped in plastic bags that were found on Fire Island. And then on April 11th of 2011, that's much, much later, of course, there was a skull found west of Tobay Beach in Nassau County, kind of close to Gilgo Beach, right? Why do we look at this? Please remember these details when we go over the document, just his document. It's going to be a part of this presentation because there he talked about plastic bags, the supplies he needed, things like that, right? So I think it's very plausible that he'll be charged with the murder of Karen Vergara at some point. Now, Peaches and Baby Doe. On June 28th of 1997, there was a torso found of an African-American female, aged 19 to 21 or so, they say, and the baby that they found later, they initially didn't know that the baby had also died, but it's said that based on the remains, the baby was approximately 2 years old. They couldn't prove homicide for the baby. The baby may have been left out in the elements, or we just don't know. But Peaches and Baby Doe, partial remains of Peaches was found also in a plastic bag. April 11th of 2011, in a plastic bag with skeletal remains found near Jones Beach State Park. Josh Zeman from the A&E documentary The Killing Season, who's also often on Joe Jacalone's show, said it's almost like bookends is what it looks like. When you look at all the bodies found along that Gilgo Beach area, it was like Peaches, all the other bodies, and Baby Doe. There's obviously Shannan Gilbert as well, but you know what I mean. So that's interesting as well. So we're going to deep dive that a little bit more in the next slide. But I think once they also identify, I think they might have a hunch of who Peaches is. They might have already identified Peaches. We just don't know. I think they're working on that. All of these murders behind the scenes, of course, and so many more. But I think these charges are ones we could possibly see in the future. And as horrible as I say, again, the answers are horrible. I hope that there will be some cold cases that can be solved now that they know much more about this ogre, Rex Heuermann. The next one is Valerie Mack. I would speculate that's probably the most likely one we'll see Rex Heuermann charged with next, based on them researching that Maniville area, based on them finding Rex Heuermann's manifesto or blueprint, right? Because her remains were found very close to Jessica Taylor's. The most recent murder charge you just had, right? Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor. Valerie Mack, very likely. Now, she was last seen in the spring of 2000. She was 24 years old. Her remains were dismembered, and they were found November 19th of 2000 in plastic bags. April 4th of 2011, her skull, hands, and right foot were found in plastic bags near Gilgo Beach. And in May of 2020, she was identified. Another big day in the case. And then, of course, there's Asian Doe. Unidentified male, was wearing female clothing, found on Gilgo Beach. Remains found April 4th of 2011. Died from blunt force trauma to the head. The remains, they say, were there for at least 5 years. So approximately 2006 is when that murder would have occurred. And so that's all we know for now. But I hope that they can identify Asian Doe at some point as well. You know, and I wonder then if Rex Heuermann, if forensic evidence would tie him to it, or MO, or maybe more documents or things like that, right? The orphan says, was Baby Doe Peach's baby by DNA? Yes. Yes. Baby Doe is Peach's baby, just in case someone doesn't know that, right? Okay, now, Peaches, this is again about the tattoo. Remember, look at the screenshot, the white box, right? That is a screenshot from Rex Heuermann's document, the one that they found on one of his laptops on March 7th of 2024, they being the Secret Service who's helping out with this investigation. They recovered this document that Rex Heuermann had tried very hard to delete. In it, he wrote bullet points: body prep, wash body inside and all cavities, remove trace evidence, fingerprints, hair, remove trace DNA, remove ID marks, tattoos, marks. So I think he learned after Peaches. That document was created in 2000 and updated in 2002, and eventually tried to delete it. I don't know exactly when he tried to delete it, and I don't know how many other versions he has, because what happens after 2004, right? But there you see, he said remove ID marks or tattoos, which would have been after this case if he's ever connected to this, which I would speculate he very likely will be. So Peaches and her baby are suspected Long Island serial killer victims. On June 28th of 1997, there was a torso found in a wooded area of Hempstead Lake State Park, New York, which is very similar to Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack's, how their remains were found, right? She was decapitated and dismembered, like Jessica Taylor was in 2003. She was found in a Rubbermaid container with a red towel and floral pillowcase, which is why I think he later evolved to surgical drapes and burlap, basically. You know, not plastic and things that could be identified, especially after seeing the hype of, whoa, they found these dismembered remains and that's all in the news. Sometimes, of course, serial killers want notoriety, they want the fame, they want the attention, they want to taunt the police as well. But obviously, when they're just starting out, they don't want to be caught. So it's like, ooh, crap, he's making himself some lists. Now, we did discuss, we snarked at him, you know, and the way he spells things sometimes. Disclaimer, I mean, some words I don't spell right either, but we're snarking at the criminal, not at people who can't spell words, okay? That would just be plain wrong. But him, interestingly, certain words he spells very strangely, even though he's probably got the book right there, like John Douglas's book. So does he have a bad memory that he needs to make all these lists? Is he doing this because he enjoys the planning process? I think that's very likely, that he's like, oh, I'm going to make lists and documents and think about it, fantasize about it. Many serial killers do that. They spend weeks, months, hours, days, however many years sometimes, just fantasizing about their next kill. And they always want the ideal murder. And many times when you study many serial killers, you'll find that those serial killers say it's never what they fantasized it to be, which is why they keep going. They keep on trying to improve. They keep on trying to get that high It's a bit of an addiction, So we've spoken about that with criminal profiler John Kelly before as well, where he says serial killing is an addiction because once they get going, they're chasing something that they just never seem to get, right? My goodness, it's terrible. So, the Peaches tattoo. Police published a photo of her tattoo to try to identify her. Additional skeletal remains were found on Long Island in 2011, which were positively identified as belonging to Peaches in 2016, along with the remains of her child. On October 7th of 2022, it was revealed that the FBI is following a lead in Mobile, Alabama. This is interesting. To identify Peaches and her daughter. They said, seeking relatives and friends of Elijah Howell Howard, 1927 to 1963. Mr. Howard lived in Pritchard, Alabama with his wife Carrie and passed away in Mobile, Alabama in 1963 with Miss Lily Mae Wiggins Packer. His relatives may be able to assist in the case of a woman and child found in another state. Does this tattoo look familiar? If anyone has any information, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or www.tips.fbi.gov. So it's still very important, of course, to share, like and share, use the hashtags, all those things in case, what if somebody knew Elijah Howell Howard and like, what? That was like my grandfather or great-grandfather or whoever, my friend, or I knew him. They want to find his family members, obviously to do DNA tests and to look at the family tree and do all of that to identify Peaches and her daughter. I hope they do. I hope they're successful at that. Okay, so is it called Mobile? Mobile, Alabama. Sorry about that. I will learn, guys. Mobile, Alabama. Blessed says, wow, I live in Mobile, Alabama. Okay, so again, I would say if Rex Heuermann, if it turns out that he's responsible for the murder of Peaches, and I don't know what happened to Baby Doe, I would speculate that that little list that he made that you see on the right would be a learning process for him after this. Because maybe he's like, whoa, people are making a huge deal out of this tattoo. Which I think was found on her left breast, right? And it's interesting that later he would also damage the victim's breasts and damage tattoos and things like that. Okay, so Peaches was murdered in 1997. Did Heuermann start mutilating tattoos after her tattoo became such a significant identifier in her case? Of course, that theory of mine right there would be different because there's another potential case connected called Cherries, another tattoo, Cherries, and that happened on March 3rd of 2007. A dismembered torso was found in a suitcase in Harbor Island Park in Westchester County, New York. So that would be after that then. Very, very strange. If Cherries is eventually tied to Rex Heuermann, well, then he didn't follow his own notes, which, thank goodness. I hope that all these cases will be solved one day. I hope everyone's following. Welcome. Now, here's a little interesting bit that I found. As I say, I'm going to bring you all sorts of little bits. Today, there's so much that I could talk about. Eventually, I've just got to narrow it down and make a presentation because we'll talk about many things. But this is, of course, Rex Heuermann's home at 105 First Avenue, Massapequa Park, right in New York. Okay, so on the right-hand side is Rex Heuermann and a lady called Catherine Shepard. She worked with suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann off and on for 5 years, so between 2002... in 2005. I think they say between 2002 and 2007, which is interesting based on the murder timeline, that a woman could work with him and say he's so friendly, he's so helpful and all of that, right? Has a different experience of him. That's why I say serial killers often, especially the organized ones, will, and there's a literal definition of, it doesn't just mean organized, of like premeditated, planned, calculated, not mentally unwell to the point where they're just spontaneously doing things like that would be organized, right? Anyway, to be in touch with him and him compartmentalizing to be so nice to this lady and take care of her and everything when she fell, and we'll read about that now. But Catherine Shepard recalled how she found Heuermann's reaction odd at the time, and now wonders what else he might have been hiding in the 12-foot by 15-foot space. What she was there to do, she's an interior designer, and she'd gone to the house to have a look to see if she could help, which must have been, I wonder, I wish we could talk to her. What was the house like? Was it a hoarder's house? Was it cluttered? Was it like, what was she going to do there, right? She said, I didn't understand why he was being so weird about it. And I'm thinking, what was he hiding? She's talking about Rex Heuermann wouldn't allow her to measure the basement. Oh boy. His home office, the basement, the gun room, and potentially the kill room. He wouldn't let her go near it. Everything else was fine. Don't touch that, right? So she said, whoa, I don't understand why he's being so weird about it. Now I'm thinking, what was he hiding? She spent 3 hours assessing the home in 2005. Heuermann even once took her to a firing range in the Bronx where he taught her how to fire a 9mm handgun. On another occasion, when she slipped on ice, Heuermann accompanied her to a hospital and then back to her apartment in Manhattan where he gave her meds, which that is pretty interesting as well. I'm going to show you this quickly. Hold on. Let's see if we can bring this up here. Hello. We want to bring it above it. Yes. Okay. This is the source is the Daily Mail. Let's try to reduce the adverts. Okay, I just want to quickly make the presentation smaller but still keep our place. All right. So I just want to read you this quickly because it's very interesting about how protective he was about the basement, you know, around this interior designer and, of course, his wife. And now we kind of know why. So that's why I say some of these things we've been through before, they become very interesting later again. Because we're like, wait a minute, remember that? Okay. So yeah, someone's saying Dexter vibes. I would think so. It seems so, right? Okay, let's just close this. Okay, so accused Gilgo Beach killer Rex Heuermann had secret locked room in his basement and refused to let interior designer in, saying that it was filled with guns. As she says, he's just like Dexter. Suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann kept a large room in his basement locked and became skittish when an interior designer tasked with measuring his home sought to enter, telling her, no, it was filled with guns, Daily Mail can reveal. Speaking exclusively, this is an old article, by the way. This was published July 2023, okay? So they said, speaking exclusively with Daily Mail, Catherine Shepard recalled how she found Heuermann's reaction odd at the time and now wonders what else he might have been hiding in the 12-foot by 15-foot space. I didn't understand why he's being so weird about it. And I'm thinking, what was he hiding? Shepard said. It was a big room. What was happening in that room? Is that where he took the woman? Probably. So here you could see Rex Heuermann here, and here's Catherine Shepard. Look at this guy. Oh my word. Okay, so now they say here Shepard developed a friendly working relationship with Heuermann and other colleagues while sharing an office space with him for 2 years in Manhattan. They are pictured during a social outing at Pete's Tavern in exclusive photos obtained by the Daily Mail. Now they say Shepard, 47, who worked with Heuermann for 5 years, spent 3 hours assessing his Massapequa Park, New York home for a renovation project, which is interesting because he never actually went ahead with this renovation project. I wonder if it was just his wife wanting to get a quote and saying, let's just redo this house a little bit. And he might have said no eventually. Maybe it was, I don't know what, which is weird because he is an architect or was an architect. You know, we thought the whole time, well, why is it because he buried things in the yard or in the walls or what? That's still possible. They sure dug up the yard and pulled off wood paneling, and they've really, I think the house would probably be like unlivable at this point, right? If the family goes back to live there now, I'm going to be pretty shocked because I think they've now ripped out the plumbing and all sorts of things, especially based on the checklist that Rex Heuermann made. Yeah, drain cleaner says Old Hillbilly USA. Foam drain cleaner. Now, so they say she was there for this renovation project in 2005, just one of several close interactions she had with him that have kept her awake at night since his arrest last week. She described how she had developed a friendly working relationship with the architect, he wasn't 59 at the time, but with the architect who was seen mingling with the interior designers and colleagues in exclusive photos published for the first time. She revealed that Heuermann even once took her to a firing range in the Bronx where he taught her how to fire a 9mm handgun. On another occasion, when she slipped on ice, Heuermann accompanied her to a hospital and then back to her apartment in Manhattan where he gave her meds. See that. The two different versions already of Rex Heuermann. There's like, what? Like, I'm glad she's okay. I'm glad she's safe and everything. It's just like, what? You're nurturing one woman. You're murdering all these other women. It's just, that's what I say. With serial killers, the way that they compartmentalize their lives and, you know, really, really the double life is there. Precy said, I've heard Asa is back home. Oh, my word. Okay. So I don't think I could live in that house. Huh? If I were us, no. It might be the only house they have, but try to sell the property or the house or something, or burn it down. I don't know, man. Because imagine living there knowing, especially now, that he probably murdered the victims at the home. I also wonder how he got out of all those family trips, that he never went with, or did he sometimes go with? But how did he get out of the family trips? Be like, I want to stay here. I've got so much work to do. You guys go. You know what I mean? Cashless says #grooming. Yeah, even that. It's just so odd, this. Oh my goodness. So they say he gave her meds. Shepard worked with Heuermann off and on between 2002 to 2007 and shared an office space with him for 2 of those years in Manhattan, where he ran an architectural firm. She would regularly travel with him to job sites as a freelance interior designer. At the time, she found him smart and mostly friendly, if socially awkward, which is how people that went to school with him describe him. A loner, socially awkward. He was bullied. He was targeted, if you guys remember that, right? Thank you, Buffy Rocks. I just glanced and saw your nice comment. So she says she now likens him to a real-life Dexter, the Showtime character who led a double life as a serial killer. He's just like Dexter. You'd never know if you met him. Dexter was also super normal, and then he'd have the other side. Well, most serial killers are like that. Again, especially the organized, premeditated, planning, calculated ones. They would fantasize for a very long time to do their things, right? Shepard admitted that she had never even heard of the Gilgo killings until an old boss reached out with the news via text messages on Saturday. Okay, so we've seen many of these pictures as well. Here he is again. Look at him there, being the funny guy. Oh my word, look at him. He's like, hey. Mingling in a sports bar, of course. She said, I Googled his name and Jesus, there he was. She's probably like, Jesus, there he was. But okay, sorry if that offended anyone reading that. There was this picture of my colleague that I remembered dearly. I then spent the next 8 hours reading every article I could find. I was shocked. How could this be the same man? I'm like shaking right now, she said as she described her relationship with Heuermann, which ended a couple of years before he allegedly began a killing spree. Well, that's changed now. You see that? No, not began. He'd began long ago, as far back as 1993, allegedly so far based on the charges. It might even be earlier than that, as we'll see maybe in the months or years or whatever it is to come. So, Heuermann, he allegedly began this, depositing the bodies of several women on the beach not far from his home on Long Island's South Shore. So the rest we know, we've been through that. They also got this wrong, saying Heuermann has lived at the property since the 1980s with his wife, Asa. No, man, he married her in 1996. Stop saying since the 1980s. It's his childhood home. I don't think he ever left it. But he did not live there with Asa since 1980. No, they need some bullet points there. Okay, so lastly, then we're going to get back to the presentation. You see, we've got so much to talk about, on my word. Shepard knew the property well. On a snowy morning in February of 2005, she took a train from New York City to meet him in Massapequa Park. He picked her up at the station, nice guy, huh? And drove her to his home, where she met his wife and kids. Shepard recalls how Ellerup had been washing the dishes and the kids were hanging out at the time. Heuermann was planning to renovate the kitchen, but also wanted precise measurements of the rest of the house. Shepard went room to room, taking measurements, and he followed her downstairs. In the basement, there was this one room that was locked, and he said, I couldn't go into that room, she recalled. I was like, what the hell? That's weird. And he was kind of joking, like, oh, you can't go in there because there's things in there. And then he said, I've got a bunch of guns. He was weird about it. And I was like, okay, fine. She told dailymail.com, I could measure around it. On Sunday, New York State Police removed a mass haul of weapons from the house a day after scouring the property to determine whether Heuermann had any trophies for the 3 victims that he was charged with murdering at the time. Right now it's 6. But yes, they carried out many weapons. So we're going to get to that, of course. If you've never seen the selfie, I should have given a trigger warning. There he is. Oh, no. No, Rex, no selfies. None of that. So, back in 2005, Shepard left the house with her boyfriend from Long Island who picked her up. A month after working in the house, she met Heuermann in the Bronx at a firing range where he had been hired for some renovations. While there, he gave her a lesson. I met him out there and measured the gun range, she said, and afterwards he taught me how to fire a 9mm. I didn't know he was so into guns, but here we were. He was telling me how to place my hands under the hammer, so when the hammer went back, it didn't hit me, she explained. I fired like 4 or 5 shots and I hit the target, and a picture of a beer bottle. It was pretty intense. She also recalled the time that she was alone with the future alleged serial killer in her apartment. Earlier in the day, she had slipped on the sidewalk and could hardly walk by the time she arrived at work. Rex took me in a cab to urgent care, waited for me while I got an MRI and everything else, and then he took me back to my apartment. Whoa. Yes, Cashless said, he's an architect in New York. He has unfettered access to his own home's schematics. He was grooming her, trying something new. Right? Like, why does he need her to measure things, right? He's an architect. What is he doing? Ooh, it's so scary. No wonder. She's got sleepless nights, right? Many more victims than one can imagine. There's murder victims, and then imagine the psychological trauma he's caused so many people. Okay, so the rest here, we pretty much know. We're almost there. My roommate was gone at the time, she continued. Rex got me settled into my room, and then he went off to get my medication. When he came back, he made sure I had something to eat and had my medication, and then he went home. He took care of me, she said. The one sweet memory now haunts her. This is the same man that's allegedly killing women, and he could have killed me right there in my apartment if he wanted to. No one was there. I'm not an ugly girl, but I guess I wasn't on the menu, which is great, she continued, both horrified and somewhat amused by her experiences. It's all pretty surreal, she said. I watch a lot of those crime shows and everything, but you never think in a million years it's going to be you or someone you know. How would I ever know a serial killer? What are the chances of that? So, okay, back to the presentation deep dive here. So that is what happened there. I'll make myself a little bit smaller again so that we could see this really nicely. All right, continuing. Just want to give you that little bit there. It's quite something. Yeah, Stores Spartan says, okay, well, architecture does not equal interior design, right? But why is he asking her to measure all the rooms? And I don't know if she was really going to design it. It doesn't quite fit. Interior design in the type of home they had, all the clutter, all the everything. I don't know. I wish we could ask his wife, right? What did you think of that when he had an interior? Did he bring the interior designer over? Probably, because he worked with her for 5 years. I also think he was, he had other plans, perhaps. Now, here's some pictures of the property, some of the searches. If you remember, we've looked at these before, but we'll revisit this one from the bathroom where they'd cut out the side of the bathtub like that. Everyone was wondering why. And so here we go back to the document that was only just discovered, but it might be something like that depending on what else they found. They're not telling the public everything, of course. But he did have foam drain cleaner on his list there. And he would have likely had to clean up a lot at the house if the murders and dismemberment was committed at the house, right? And whatever else went on there. Okay. And he says, architects definitely measure things, lol. Yes, they definitely do. So the suppliers, if you haven't seen it, we're going to go over the document again in a moment. His document. I don't mean the whole 137-page one. Don't worry. Then we'll be here for hours. So the property details, again, I just wanted to see the interior, what type of basement. They say basement type full. So there is a full basement, because I know along the way we've wondered, like, is there a basement? Is it full basement? How big is this basement? What is it? Also, the arrow is pointing to a bin, is what it looks like. And I've seen it speculated online that if he has a green bin, like the one that Peaches was found in, her dismembered remains, one wonders if the green bins was part of his MO once upon a time, right? I don't know. I just wanted to show you that in case you didn't spot that before. But look at that clutter already there. I think investigators have now carried out just about everything. Okay, let me quickly see what I'm missing. Yeah, Afton Forward said, that's it, Gizla. It's all about the fantasy. Yes, it's all about the fantasy for these guys, unfortunately. Okay, so, thank you to everyone. You guys are so kind. Every time I glance, there's such kind comments in between everything. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Electronic devices found. I didn't see a full breakdown of this in the document we read, okay? But if you watch the press conference, the district attorney, Ray Tierney, really bullet pointed the whole thing. Is like this, and so we're going to go over that now. What electronic devices did they find in the home? Bear in mind that obviously it was his childhood home. It was the home where I think he was with his first wife. It was, his home with Asa since 1996 as well. So there must be a lot of stuff in there. I'm sure everybody, has a couple of phones, old phones lying around or whatever it is. But this is a lot. Either way, this is a lot. Okay, so 15 different types of cameras. Now, if you remember his little HK document, the blueprint, the planning document, right? In it, he said, dispose of pics. I wonder where? Because let's say like Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy, they love to take Polaroids, right? And they stashed it in places. Jeffrey Dahmer in the top drawer of his bedroom, which was open at the time when the police busted into his house, because one of the last victim that was at the house escaped. Thank goodness. Tracy Edwards, right? But did he take Polaroids? Did he take pictures? Because normally these guys would, because they also want to relive the fantasy in between the cool-off periods, right? In between the murders. So where did he dispose of the pics? Would he put it in boxes buried in the woods? Would he really destroy the pictures? Would he burn them? People did say, neighbors said they saw him burning stuff in the yard a lot. And I'm like, that's weird. Okay, so 15 different types of cameras. 27 computers. Now, my husband is a software engineer and he loves collecting computers. But still, even though he's a bit of a computer collector, there's probably in our house, I think there's a total of 5 or something, 27. I was reading this to him. I'm like, 27 computers. It's like, wait, what? Okay, wow, 27 computers, 58 internal hard drives, 22 external hard drives. Ooh, imagine what's all on there. And I'm sure Rex, I can't believe his name is Rex. Have you ever heard of that? Like a serial killer called Rex, Andrew Heuermann. Anyway, it sounds like a freaking movie, but unfortunately it's not. It's real life. Now, 46 cell phones. So I was saying, I think he probably tried to delete a lot off here, but they're going to find it. Uncle Google is not your friend. Okay, and that's me saying this after researching all this stuff too. Google has seen some interesting search terms today while I was preparing this for you. Okay, so 46 cell phones, 9 Wi-Fi routers. Remember, I'm South African. I say routers. I know you guys say routers. A lot of people. I know accents can vary as well. Okay, but 9 Wi-Fi routers, 44 SD micro cards, 17 tablets, 42 USB devices, 8 laptops, and that's now on top of the computers, right? Now, 50 hotel cards is interesting to me because what if it represents 50 trips the family did? You know, if we look at the years, if it's 30 years, twice a year or so, you know what I'm saying? Whoa, that could, maybe they collect the hotel cards, you know, it's like a souvenir. Maybe it's not him. Well, then he could be tied to like 50 victims. If we speculate that, as well as there's 42 USB devices, you know what I mean? I'm just like, whew, I wouldn't doubt that there's more than 50 victims that can be tied to this serial killer. 50 hotel cards, 4 GPS devices. Also, the hotel cards could obviously be his. It could. I was just thinking outside the box there a little bit. Oh my word, yeah, exactly. Catchless says a 32 gigabyte SD card can typically hold up to 22,888 JPEG photos. Damn. And he's got, where are the SD cards? 44 of them. Imagine the amount of digital evidence that they are working with now. Ooh. 4 GPS devices, 11 music devices, 36 SIM cards, 33 miscellaneous items. I'm like, what are those? What are those? I'm sure you guys are curious. Like, what do you mean miscellaneous items? Could you be more specific? No, they can't at this point. Then also 647 CD, floppy disk, VHS, or miscellaneous tapes. I don't know if that's the PORN or other things, but somebody asked him on one of these interviews I watched, I think it was Chris Como on News Nation, asked the district attorney, were there any of these, did any of these tapes have the victims on them? And he said, not. Oh, it was at the press conference. The media asked him, because I remember him like wiping his forehead and be like, no, we didn't find that. And I'm like, is that a tell? Should we analyze his body language? Were they or weren't they? I don't know. These types of guys collect horrible things, especially the horrible things they do to their victims. Usually. But maybe there really wasn't, but that's still a lot, right? 647 CD, floppy disk, okay? VHS or miscellaneous tapes. Scary. Now, where did they find this document? Rex Heuermann's document, not the bail application document, which detailed what was in Rex Heuermann's document. Where did they find Rex Heuermann's reminders to himself, his digital notes, okay, like to try to remind himself what to prepare, what to not forget, which, again, did he draw this up because he needs to remind himself? He needs a clear plan. Or was he just enjoying the planning process, right? Where did they find the document? On one of the laptops. As we could see, there were, how many laptops? 8 laptops found in the house. On one of the laptops. The document was titled HK 2002-04. All right? It was originally created in 2000. Then it was modified in 2001 to 2002. There was an attempt to erase this document. So this one, wow, we could see what he wrote in this document. This is the document that they detailed in the latest bail application, 137-page document we read together recently. Okay, so HK 2002-04. Now, I don't know what HK stands for. Some people in the comments have said, is it Heuermann kills or he kills? I don't know. I do not know what the HK would stand for. His name is Rex Andrew Heuermann. Now, he said again, problems. The problems he would face, because he needs to list them. Right. DNA, tire marks, blood stains, fingerprints, MO, look there, plastic bag or cat litter. Those are problems. The plastic sure was a problem because it also kind of preserves some of the remains and how they found, for example, well, victims that haven't been tied to him yet, there was plastic involved. So maybe he's like, okay, changing that, MO, plastic bag or cat litter. Witness would be a problem for him. Like the person who saw him, well, not him, but saw a dark pickup truck backed into the woods where Jessica Taylor's remains were found. Yeah, that would be a problem for him, which is why he tried to buy another one. I would assume at that point his wife was like, why are you going to buy another car? His truck was only 4 months old at the time. So she's probably like, why are you trying to buy another truck? He's like, maybe I just want a different color. She's like, no. I can see that conversation happening. Also, he said, witness, trace source of supplies, foot or shoe prints, photos, question mark. Now, where are those photos? Yes, where? Photos. Misleaders, MISS, misleaders, okay. Police stop, truck stuck, fingerprints in gloves, plastic bags matched to a box. He doesn't want them to trace that he bought it at Walmart, for example. We don't know that he bought it at Walmart, I'm just saying. And then hair and fiber. Now, what's interesting there is when he says police stop. Do you remember there was a lady who says she went on a date with Rex Heuermann around 2015. I think her first name, I always forget her whole name. I think it's Nikki. She was also recently on News Nation again with attorney John Ray next to her. But she said when Rex Heuermann met up with her at a seafood place for a date, he was talking all about the Gilgo Beach murders and saying, have you ever heard of them? And he was all excited to talk about it. And there, she said, how do you think that this killer would hide the bodies? Like, how would he have put them on Ocean Parkway? And when she tried to answer, he's like, well, not if it's a police car. So again, I wonder if he evolved, over the years and thought, if I have like John Wayne Gacy got like the whole thing, the police lights and all the stuff, right? He tried to pretend he was a cop. So here as well, I wonder if he later was like, maybe a police car, then they wouldn't be able to find, or to notice this vehicle on the side of the road or whatever it is. But there he was afraid of police stops and his truck being stuck and all this kind of stuff, right? Now the supplies, I put a note there on the document. The note was not on the document. That note with the little black box is what I put on there, okay? And I said, note, burlap is not on the list. Is there a newer list successfully deleted by him? Gilgo Four was 2007 to 2010. This document is 2002 to 04, created originally in 2000. So his supplies are booties, lye, which is usually spelled L-Y-E, but lye or acid. I think the spelling mistakes he makes consistently as well, especially types of words, that's going to be a way to also make it easier to verify that it's him that wrote further documents that I'm sure they'll find. Police scanner, one of his supplies. You see that? He's listening in. Rope or cord, saw or cutting tools, hair nets. Now, Attorney John Ray says the plural, hair nets, he interprets it as there's somebody else, as an accomplice. I interpret hair nets as him planning many kills, right? He needs a supply of hair nets, because if you're going to look at hair nets as a plural, then you also have to look at medical gloves and large electric clips. Those are also plurals, body wash or wipes. You know what I mean? It could be. I'm not discounting that they could be an accomplice. I'm just thinking people like this usually operate alone. It's like, there's also speculation with John Wayne Gacy. Did he have help? Did he have an accomplice? There's a lot. That's a whole deep dive. But here as well, hair nets didn't work out for him because his hair, even though it's one hair, was found on the victims. So, anyway, he also wanted photo film. You see that? Oh, he's old school like that. That's what I'm saying. Where are these little boxes of Polaroids? Where did he hide them? Okay, I hope they look everywhere. I'm sure they will, but he's got many properties. What was in the storage unit? Who knows? Maybe they've already got things. Burn can. Foam drain cleaner, which is why I showed you that picture earlier. Body wash or wipes. Tarps or drop cloths, which is why they went back to the house because of this document, because they're like, whoa, tarps or drop cloths. And then his notes say that he should rather use thumbtacks or push pins instead of tape. The tape doesn't hold up the drop cloths well enough for him. Okay, yeah, Kathleen said hair nets would also come in a pack of multiples. Yeah, same as the medical gloves. You get like a little box of those or something. So yes, I think hair nets, to me, it doesn't sound like, I wouldn't read too much into it, me personally. But anyway, you just never know with these guys. Then tarps, drop cloths, medical gloves, bags or tape, large electric clips, that's scary, and ratchet cargo strap. Oh dear. Now the DS attorney, the district attorney said that is most likely dump site or deposition site. DS 1 Mill Road. Now a lot of people have said in the comments, and some have emailed me, thank you for your emails, of DS2, so deposition site 2, there's 6 question marks there. When the district attorney said, well, we went to the Mandeville area and we didn't actually find any other bodies. And he just said it like that on an interview. I'm like, whoa, you were literally looking for other human remains. Of course they would research it. But maybe because he said DS1 Mill Road, and then he said DS2 with like 6 question marks, which might just be him going like, I don't know, where is it going to be? Or is it, I don't know, representing 6 victims, more than 1 victim, who knows? But they didn't find additional human remains in that Mandeville area, although they said it's very large. Hasina says electric clips. This guy was into very, very bad things. Violent. I have to say it like PORN, otherwise YouTube hears so many bad words, and then they're just going to suppress the reach of the stream. And if we want people to learn this information, that would not be helpful, right? So, yeah, the large electric clips. Oh dear. The DS, he said also dumpster site. Next time, recon, dumpster location. Oh, this guy was very calculated. TRG, they said, is probably target. T1 Megan, question mark. And there was a victim, Megan Waterman. He said small is good. And that could be for what he later lists as, where is it? He talks about a hard point. If you look at prep over there, it says set up stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, and hard point. See, that's where Uncle Google, he's going to be like, what are you looking at today? Because I'm like, BDSM hard point. Because that's what he goes into. And then you find these like suspension situations in a room, which is called a hard point. And a crossbar and a hard point is to suspend someone in those acts. So I think that's what he was prepping there. And he said, set up stage. Isn't that scary? Like, set up the stage. Oh, no, 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 no. For him, it's his own movie. Performance. Horrible. So, target, T1 Megan, small is good. So small is good. Why I thought of that is maybe he's like, based on the suspension thing that he built in his very likely basement, he's like, small is good. Okay, they could stay on there for a long time or whatever it is, right? Izzy says, Uncle Google. Yes, that's what I call him. Ask Uncle Google a lot of things. Nikki Brass. That was, thank you. Someone saying Nikki Brass is the name of that lady who went on a date with Rex Heuermann in 2015. Yes. So Nikki, correct. Nikki Brass. Okay, now, again, I say burlap is not on the list. Is there a newer list successfully deleted? Did he later say, ooh, no more plastic, rather burlap? All of that. Now, these documents, let me just see how long I've been live, because damn, we've been talking for a while, and there's a lot to talk about. But to think that he said pre-prep, vehicle inspection, engage, target 1, T1, recon, DS1, locate, DS2, weather report. Oh, he's got to check the weather as well. Check if it's good weather for him to do whatever he needs to do. Does he need it to be rainy? Probably, I would say. Rather than a clear night and a full moon. Probably no moon, maybe a bit of rain. Yeah, I would speculate. Recon vidcams, recon pickups or pick zone for vidcams. Yeah, he planned everything. Prep, set up stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, and hard point. Good luck if you ask Uncle Google for crossbar, hard point, BDSM. Oh my. I'm not going to show you examples of those pictures. Post-event, which again, if people are into that, that's not the problem that I'm saying here. I'm saying Rex Heuermann, what he did with that, combining his sexual fantasies and then with murder and sadistic torture and things, is just horrendous, right? Thank you, Beach Bum. So post-event, he said, destroy file, change tires. Whoa. That reminds me of Troy Driver in the Naomi Irion case. He was like so quickly changed his tires. I mean, that would be interesting. I'm sure they're looking into it. How often did Rex Heuermann change his tires? Wherever he changed his tires in the area, or where did he go, would be interesting. Or did he drive far? Like, let's go to holiday, or let's go visit Vegas, change tires. You know what I mean? The changing of the tires in itself is going to be interesting, because it seems like after each post-event, he's changing tires, is what he's planning from 2000-ish. Burn gloves. Dispose of pics. Where? Dispose of pics? Where? Dispose of where? Interesting. Have story set. Okay, who's the story for? Your wife, probably? Your family? Have the story set. What did you get up to all week? What? I went to work. Went out with my buddies. Like, went hunting. We know that he also, based on someone who used to work with him, he used to brag about going bear hunting in Alaska. The whole hunting story already, that, oh my goodness. Because he was also a hunter, right? So to think of mixing those worlds for him, being like, I'm going hunting. He could have meant hunting women sometimes, right? Okay. So, yes, that's it. Jen Rand said the issue is all of it was non-consensual, to say the least. Absolutely. Notes. Now, this is where the John Douglas book starts coming into the picture here. Notes. Spur of the moment. Cover. Stockholm Syndrome. Those are all notes from the John Douglas book that he's taking now, right? He says, the more you do, the more clues you give. So he's trying to what, are you trying to tell yourself, keep it simple? Or the more you do, the more clues you give? He said, look at the painting. What? Why? Who? And if I look at the book that I bought, the Mindhunter book is what he's quoting there. Then I've highlighted for you here the painting part, which if you do get the Kindle version is on what? Page 19. Okay. And at the bottom here, it says, we're able to do this because of our research and our specialized experience. While a local Midwestern police department faced with a serial murder investigation might be seeing these horrors for the first time, my unit has probably handled hundreds, if not thousands, of similar crimes. I always tell my agents, if you want to understand the artist, you have to look at the painting. We've looked at many paintings over the years and talked extensively to the most accomplished artists. So that's part of the book where he's listing there. Look at the painting. What, why, who. Donna says, I love you. Give us all the dirty details of RH's life and times. Thank you so much. And if you want a deeper dive into every phase of his life, which we won't have time for today because it's already way too long. It is on the playlist though. I'll show you an example before we go so you can see it. Okay, so he also said, you can't spell organized, which is going to be interesting for the rest of the documents, which I speculate they'd find. But he said organized versus disorganized. Page 162, sex substitution. Page 163, mutilation equals disorganized. So let me just see. I wrote some notes here as well. I just want to see something. Sorry for the flapping of pages here. I'm just looking at my handwritten notes that I've got here. Because he was writing the whole time. He's trying to say, okay, so if someone has a sex substitution, like using toys and things like that, maybe a knife in his case, whoa, that would be a disorganized killer, right? And he's also saying mutilation equals disorganized, which is why I say I think he also tried to, it's just a speculation, throw investigators off by doing some things that disorganized serial killers would do, because I don't think he's disorganized at all. He's completely a calculator, a planner, it's premeditated, he's writing it down, he's making notes, he's studying books, he's evading capture for 30 years. So this guy is an organized serial killer. But it's interesting how he studies that and Stockholm Syndrome, which is coercive control, really, and all of that. So I don't know if he was interested in that or what was going on there. Horrible. It also could tell us that he might have wanted to keep the victims alive for some time and sadistically toy with them because of all the other things that he wrote, right? Which is horrifying to think of. So there, body prep. Wash body inside and all cavities. Remove trace evidence, fingerprints or hair. Remove trace DNA. Remove ID marks, tattoo or marks. And then he goes ... Remove head and hands. Well, okay. Package for transport. Dispose of the following: tools and devices. Again, where? Is this in dumpsters? Because you're going to recon all the dumpster sites. Oh my. Target 1, clothes and personal items. Drop cloths. Drop cloths. That's for drop cloths. Dispose of the following: drop cloths. Wipes and towels. Props, toys, and wood items. And remember, he said he loved that cabinet maker's hammer, and his dad was an engineer. And also did some carpentry at the home, and he also used that same room to build furniture and make things, so he had a lot of wood around. He's like, okay, remove all the wood items, anything that touched target 1, what you wore, destroy book and computer files, burn gloves, dispose of box of plastic bag to avoid trace. Things to remember, now that's also interesting. Sound travels, i.e. bird outside. Control the amount of air in and out to control the noise made. That's an interesting way around. Like, he's probably thinking if you could hear the birds outside, then outside can hear you. Like, control the sound. Or is he did he blindfold the victim and be like, ooh, you don't know where you are. You're in a secret room, so that they don't know the address or something. That they can't hear. Like, whoa, the outside world is right there. Maybe he's like, you're in a deep, dark dungeon in the ground. How do we know? Who knows? But, okay. So sound travels, i.e. bird outside. Control the amount of air in and out to control the noise made. Get sleep. This is so scary. Get sleep before hunt. See? It's calling it hunt. Before hunt. Too tired creates problems. Telling himself to get some sleep before this, what he's going to do. Why does he need to tell himself this on a list as well? Right? Nikki says, where did they find this? On one of the laptops that they seized at his house, on one of his laptops, allegedly, a document that he had deleted, but the Secret Service was able to retrieve it, and here it is. And it's they discovered this the district attorney said he became aware of it on March 7th of 2024. So that is how now it led them back to the house, to search the house again, the Mandible area again, the North Sea area again, redo all those searches to make sure, based on information learned on this document. Now, again, we're going to go to the point that took them back to the house, where he said, okay, get sleep before hunt, too tired creates problems. Now, this is very difficult to read. He said, hit harder, too many hit to take down. Consider a hit to the face or neck next time for takedown, which tells you the victims were very scared and fought back very hard. So he's like, okay, just hit them harder next time. What? He's so big, he's so tall, this guy. So then he said, next time. See, a hit to the face or neck next time. That's why I'm saying the hair nets, everything. He's planning many kills, many. Next time, he's going to do this and this and this and this. And this was probably drawn up after a murder, right after. Scary. Right after and before. Okay. He said, this is it. This is what took them back to the house. Okay, wait. More sleep. Wait. Almost there. More sleep and noise control equals more playtime. He calls it playtime. For him, it's a sadistic fantasy. He's playing with an object. He doesn't see these people as human, right? Shame, man. Use push pins to hang drop cloths from the ceiling, not tape. That's what took them back to the house. They were particularly interested in looking at the wood paneling in that basement, right? And seeing with infrared light, was it possible that he put tape on? They did find signs of adhesive tape, and they did find signs of push pins being used. So there they have the confirmation to back up what was written on this document, which that was something they hadn't looked at before. So if it's like, why are they back at the house? Well, that's one reason to tie those things, right? So use heavy rope for neck. Light rope broke under stress of being tightened. Again, I think that's for his suspension things. And I mean, many of the victims were asphyxiated, strangled, all of, so, and like, let me give you an example. John Wayne Gacy used to also use rope and kind of trick his victims into saying, I want to tie this around your neck now, and you're going to try to get free. And the more they try to get free, the tighter it gets. He was very impressed with his little skill there. And he would let them go unconscious and release, and they come back to life. Let them go unconscious, release, bring them back to life. A lot of these sadistic serial killers really seem to like doing that, which is so terrifying to think of being the victim. It is like this, you don't get worse than this, right? So he said use heavy rope. Okay. So then, that, just side note, John Wayne Gacy used to say, I wrote a book on him if you're brand new here. I know I said it before, but maybe someone's new in the stream. So that's why I keep referencing that as well. That one was real deep dive. But what he used to do is say, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that line, right? That phrase from the Bible. He used to he used to say that while staring at his victims while they struggled to get out of the rope that was around their neck that he had, he put a tourniquet around it. So, that, I don't even want to think what Rex Heuermann could have been up to based on studying so many others just like him. But he's very bad. So now, take down or pick up, hunt too long, seen in area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Recon for vidcams and pick up area next time. So that's the document. We've been through it again. Let me know if anything stands out to you. You can also email me, grizzlytruecrime@gmail.com. If anyone wants to, share information, just remember, I keep all my sources anonymous. So you're welcome to email me or send me whatever you need. Now, this is just an example. It's literally from Dexter. I typed in Dexter kill room, found some examples to show you of the type of thing I think Rex Heuermann was trying to make in that room. Obviously, he said drop cloths. This is plastic, but it's kind of like that, like covering the room in drop cloths and or plastic. Maybe you used to use plastic in the past. Then I was thinking, well, when did Dexter actually come out? Like, what if he ever watched Dexter or read Dexter? But then I saw the series came out in 2006, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what he did. There are some murders he committed after that, of course. But I was thinking, whoa, but he was reading all the John Douglas books. So when did the Dexter book come out, which is what the series is based on? Well, that was first published in 2004. And so he wrote push pins to hang drop cloths from ceiling and not tape. There were 279 weapons in his gun room or basement vault, and he had 92 legal permits. So one could speculate he made something like this. One could speculate at some point he was inspired by the book Dexter or something. You just don't know. Maybe he just came up with it himself. Maybe other serial killers, he learned from them. I don't know, right? It's just very scary to see. Yes, so Dexter, the novel, the first one, it's a series of novels, came out. The book was published in 2004, so he could have had his hands on that in 2004 if he wanted to read that. And the series came out in 2006. Now, what did he include in the notes section of his document? He referenced John Douglas's book, Mindhunter, particularly the 1996 first edition paperback copy. This copy or book was not found in the home. Where is it? If the book was so important to him and he was referencing the first edition, why does it, and it's in a book, it's a document that he made from 2002, originally created in 2000. Where's the book? I just wonder if he's not hiding things somewhere. Maybe one day they'll find his stashes that he's hidden who knows where. So the book that they found in his home, though, was this one that says The Cases That Haunt Us, John Douglas Mark Olshaker. It was found in his home office, which was down in the basement in July of 2023. Not this time round, okay? The book criminally profiles serial killers. He talked, it's on page 29 of the bail application document. If you haven't been able to get your hands on the document, it's on X, number one. It's also on my Patreon as a public post. You don't have to join Patreon. You could just view the public post and see the document there if you want to, right? But I did read it to you. So if you want to just hear me read it to you, that's on the playlist. It's the previous live stream we did on this case, right? Yeah, Stefan says maybe in the park nearby. That's what I'm thinking. That Massapequa Preserve, the one that Joe Jackalone says they should probably search. Yeah, maybe he's got little stashies over there. Convenient little walk for him. Just going for a walk around the block. Okay, now he's in the park. Who knows? Anyway, I'm just speculating. But he referenced page 162, sex substitution is disorganized. Page 175, mutilation, disorganized. So I think he tried to do those things to appear disorganized. My voice is going to go. Hold on. If you've been here a while, you know what happens. I talk so much, my voice box is like, you're done, lady. Okay. Yes, someone is saying he probably highlighted sections in the book because he didn't say get rid of the books. We can do it. We're almost done with the presentation. My word. Okay. And page 19, he said, look at the painting. Notes, look there. We've gone over that. On the right-hand side is a book that they found, which the media calls a gruesome piece of evidence, found on a coffee table in the home when the second search warrant happened that was served. The only person in the home was Rex Heuermann's daughter. His wife and stepson went to South Carolina on a planned trip already, right? She was in the home, they served the search warrant, and she left. Now, they said there was this death scenes, a homicide detective scrapbook on the coffee table. And so they were saying, well, they call it a gruesome piece of evidence. I would say because, remember, Rex Heuermann's wife has an attorney. Rex Heuermann's children have an attorney. Rex Heuermann's daughter's attorney recently spoke to Vinnie Politan on Court TV and said that it's a brand new book that Victoria purchased. That's what he called it, a brand new book that she purchased. I think she's trying to understand her dad and what he's been charged with and these crimes. I'm sure she's watching everything and reading everything and trying to understand who the hell is this guy who is my dad? What did he do? Right? I think that's why she would possibly, I'm speculating, I would imagine that's why she would buy a book like that, and she was probably at home alone and now she has time to okay, let me just go through this and try to understand this without anyone saying don't look at that or don't do this or whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm sure she's super curious about that. So that's the book that was found. In case you guys have heard it, if you haven't heard of it, well, now you did. There was a gruesome piece of evidence, which is not evidence, but a gruesome book, and it really is. If you look at that book, Death Scenes, a Homicide Detective Scrapbook, if you go look at that book, oh my word, a trigger warning. They're going to show you some very, very bad things. There's already very bad pictures on the front cover, but damn, if you go to the Reddit thread of that book, oh no, it's very bad. So lots of dismemberment, mutilation, all of that, dead bodies, of course. And so I think she was, Lynn says, not my idea of a coffee table book. I think it's more of a trying to understand this monster who you've lived with your whole life, who's your biological father. Can you imagine? Okay, now, last slide, and then do I have anything else to show you here? Maybe I do, I might actually. Okay, last slide for now. I made another visual timeline, just so that we're just an overview. The red is Rex Heuermann, right, between 1993, between age 30 and 47. Why those dates? Because now he's been charged with the murder of Sandra Costilla. Okay, let me make this bigger so I could point at it. He was born in 1964. This is the first murder that we know of now that he committed, that he was charged with. Obviously, allegedly, he's innocent or proven guilty in a court of law. So between 1993 and 2010, there's 6 murders that he's been charged with now that happened within that time frame. We've speculated in this live stream that he might be charged with the murders of these other 4 victims at least, if not many more, right? So let's say we have some idea of what he may have been up to between 1993 and 2010. 1993 is the year he got divorced from his first wife. In 1994, he bought his childhood home from his mother for $170,000. In 1996, he married Asa Elarab. And then in 1997, they had their daughter, okay? So, in the times that he was married, getting divorced and married, he was allegedly committing these murders. But what in the hell was he doing between, for example, if he was born in 1964, 1982, and 1990? Like in 1982, let's say he was 18 years old. Some serial killers, especially ones like this, start young, like age 21, 24. We don't know. This could be another whole decade that they could uncover later. You know, from 1982 to 1993, what was he up to? Who knew him? You know, who was at his first wedding? What do those friends say? What does the wife say? What are people thinking? What do they know? Can they come and tell us? Can they talk to us? Okay, thank you. If anyone's watching, like I recently saw a former neighbor of Rex Heuermann interviewed, also, I think it was on News Nation. But you know how mainstream media, they only have so much time. So they kind of have to cut the guest off. They're like, okay, yeah, that's enough. Okay, bye. Well, if they want to talk a little bit more, they're welcome to come here. We want to hear from them, because that sounded interesting that neighbor was talking about, but they didn't have enough time for him to get out the whole story. I'm like, come here. Okay, so if anyone's watching and you have information like that and you want to just, you could email me, or we could set something up, you know, where I could call you, or we could pre-record a video or something like that. It's always possible. As much as I have anxiety and don't usually do such things. It's always possible to get the information out, right? Now, again, between age 30 and 47 is pretty much what they know or accusing him of, right? Doing serial murder between those years. Now, I really want to know, what was he doing between 2010 and when he was arrested, obviously July 13th of 2023? What was he doing? Obviously, there was COVID as well, so that must have affected him, you know. Sorry, buddy, lockdown. What are you up to now? But between age 47 and 59, what was he doing? Because we know right before he was arrested, he was back to buying burner phones. He was back to researching similar things. You know, I don't say back to, but doing similar things. So yes, and he went on a date with Nikki Brass in 2015. She was a sex worker at the time, right? So it's like, what was he doing in that time? There's no murders that we know that he committed in the 13 years. Or was he just like spooked because they found all these bodies? I don't know. I highly doubt it. It doesn't normally stop them. Did he go to another area? What was he doing? Okay, so this is just a quick timeline to wrap up everything we've discussed today. I just want to show you what his attorney said, because I really wish I could see this trial. It's going to be very interesting. We don't have a trial date yet. Okay, so it would be this one. Here he is, Michael Brown. After those charges, MB Inc. and I were wondering why didn't Michael Brown speak? Because they said there would be a press conference and Rex Heuermann's attorney would be speaking, and we're like, where's Michael Brown? Well, here he was. He did talk eventually. Okay, so here we go. Is it going to be an advert? No. Where's the sound? Oh, I've got to unmute it.
The allegations are obviously very disturbing today, but I haven't seen anything, and we'll do the best to review it and prepare a defense.
Oh, sure.
You said you spoke to Heuermann yesterday. What was the nature of that conversation that you guys had?
We had a conversation basically about, now they're going to get very upset that we're doing it here. The conversation was basically, hey, there's a new indictment. We didn't know the number of new alleged victims. We didn't know the charges in the indictment, but we knew that there was going to be another indictment. And I just told him, hey, we have a court date, and be prepared for that.
Did he seem surprised? I mean, what was his reaction to this?
That there were new victims, yes, he did.
What is your response to the fact of this document that was uncovered and Heuermann's response?
Yeah, he doesn't, well, he had no response because we literally just got it. So what I had said earlier is, you know, I love to answer your questions, and I like to be candid and try to give you our position and our side. We literally just got this handed to us in court. I looked at it for moments, and so I didn't see anything. And then you have the discovery, which we got another flash drive. I didn't have an opportunity to review that. What I can say is, and I said it earlier, is it's a 2-page document in and of itself. It obviously is a disturbing document. I do not know in terms of context if it's part of 50 pages, 80 pages, 100 pages. And I also don't know whose computer it was on. They claim they found it in the house. I do not know whose hard drive it was. I can't tell you. So these are things obviously we want to look into when we explore and examine the evidence.
There's been other victims named in the bail application that Rex hasn't been charged with. Do you anticipate additional charges moving forward here?
I'd be silly to say yes or no. I don't know the answer to that. That's something that the district attorney can answer. Nothing surprises me on this case, but I don't know the answer.
Did you receive the files you requested, FBI, on James Burke and on that other suspect from Massapequa Park?
0. So in terms of James Burke, we got nothing, but Mr. Tierney has indicated it's out of his purview and it's more the Fed, so we're going to explore that. In terms of the other suspect, I think you're talking about a WH.
Yes.
And yes, we have reviewed that and we have seen that, and it is quite interesting, yes. And it's going to be helpful for trial, yes.
What's so interesting?
It's going to be good for trial.
Do you think having, a different MO, people who were dismembered now, do you think having a larger location, that makes a more difficult case for the prosecutors to try?
Yeah, most people assume, and I think rightfully so from a criminology standpoint, that the MO would be the same, right? So you have burlap bags, you have Gilgo, you have a 2 or 3 year period, you have prostitutes. Now the allegation is it's obviously expanded tremendously. Now you're talking about any murder is horrific, but the way in which they claim the murders occurred were horrific. You have 20 years prior, you have a completely different location, you have dismembered bodies is the allegation. So it definitely changes the dynamics. It's inconsistent with the initial theory. I'd like to see the evidence that they have in terms of establishing it, though.
And Mr. Brown, just looking forward, we came up a little bit late.
That's okay.
You're,
better late than never.
Rex's mood right now with this stunning new indictment.
He's obviously horrified by new charges, new murder allegations. We didn't have much of a conversation, but new charges are always horrific, and he's in a bad place in terms of the new charge.
He's like so soft-spoken right now, right? Listen here, play it. I just paused it. There you go.
Do you think with new charges that this pushes back any possible trial, hearings, things like that, dramatically?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, again, any one murder is a tremendous amount of discovery. Now you've just added 2 more to the fray. And by adding 2 more to the fray, what we asked for in chambers this morning is we want Bitroff files now too, because Bitroff he is a convicted murderer in this county. His MO is exactly what the Costilla MO is. And quite frankly, the police department and the district attorney's office all had the finger pointed at Bitroff for that murder. Mm-hmm. So we want to look at the Bitroff murders.
So do we.
The DA was asked if they were talking to you and Mr. Heuermann about, their assumption he's guilty, your assumption that he's not. Are they talking to him about, in any conversation about anything about these murders?
A couple of things. Number one, there's a presumption of innocence, period, from the beginning of any case. Nobody's talking to Rex Heuermann other than myself and the team because he's represented by counsel. I think what you're saying is Mr. Tierney said that he and I would engage in discussions about this case, and we've talked about this case from the inception, and we'll continue to talk about this case.
Thank you.
All right, we good, guys?
All right, but good, guys. I really like this attorney. I just think this trial, whenever it happens, will be quite something to see, right? Catch LISK, thank you so much. You said you got to run. Me too soon. My voice won't make it. Thank you so much for being here and being such a great resource of information as well. I want to show you guys quickly. I'm not going to play this. I just want to... Here's Chris Comer. Sorry for this pause. Very cool district attorney as well, right? Between the district attorney and the defense attorney. Can you imagine going to that trial? I'm really tempted to, whenever it'll be. It'll be quite something. Oh, my word. So... this one, I'm going to link for you in the description box. Go and have a listen, especially based on everything that we went through today. I've done my very best to bring in the bullet points and visual timelines. And I know it was a lot of information, but maybe rewatch it if it felt like whoosh, too much. I don't know. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed as well, but I try my very best to break it down for you guys so that you don't feel overwhelmed, right? That's a horrible feeling. So here, check this interview out. District Attorney Ray Tierney is there, and he's also on News 12. So check this interview out as well. Those are brand new ones. So we've done our map time before as well. The Kindle book, it's out there, Mindhunter, if you do want to read it as well. I'm reading little bits based on what Rex Heuermann was referencing in his notes there. So one more thing I want to show you, which we've done before, just as a preview for what you may have missed, is the following, right? So we've got the timeline that I brought today. Rex Andrew Heuermann, I've got exactly when he was arrested, when he was arraigned. We've got maps like this of where the victims' remains were found. Look at this timeline. You like today's timeline? You're going to like this timeline. I do not remember what I called this episode, but it's on my playlist. I'll link it for you right after this in the description box, okay? I'll call it Rex Heuermann by year in the description box and link it. So basically, we went through everything from when he was born to everything. His dad died when he was 11 years old. He was married to his first wife between 1990 and 1993. In 94, he bought his childhood home, started his own company. 96, he married Asa. He was 32 years old. They had a daughter, Victoria, in 97. Also has a stepson who was 7 years old at the time. Now, the way that I can remember so many things like this is because of these types of timelines. I hope it helps you too, because I'm like, wait a minute. You know, when people are like, wait, when was he married to the first wife again? There you go. You could see it there. You'll never unsee it. 1990 to 1993. And then we look at when all the murders that we know of so far were committed, right? And then we looked at every single thing, every phase of his life. Look at that, age 0 to 12, 1963 to 75. There's his dad. There's his mother. We've got a sister, 2 sisters, and a brother, okay? So you can know all about his, what's his family? What was the family tree like? What was the structure like? How did he grow up in that home? Who was with him? We talk about Theodore, his dad, and his mom. There's Theodore's gravesite. He was a Air Force veteran. So yes, if you want to see this, he was 12, and how old all the kids were when the dad died. The belt, Heuermann, maybe HM. His grandfather as well. We looked at his name, that it could be his belt. All of this, age 12 to 18. We go through it. We also go to this Amityville. That's an interesting one, right? We also talk about, they say he was a victim with a mean streak whose home life was difficult and school life was worse. He was a loner and a target. He was everybody's punching bag. That's how people who went to school with him talk about Rex Heuermann, the guy they remember from school. So if you want to know, well, what's this guy's background? What was his childhood like? Just a little bits we know. What do friends say that went with him to school or people that observed him? It's all in here. And we've done a deep dive on this slide by slide before, right? Every phase of this dude's life we looked at. We looked at the hunting. There's Nicky Brass, the date that he went on that I referenced. His horrific Google searches, okay? And then here's the timeline again, and all the victims, everything that happened, how they were, when they were missing, when their bodies were discovered, the things that he said on the calls, all right? Everything. It's all in here that we've done before. So I hope you'll check that out. I've highlighted since the names in yellow are the murders that he's been charged with. Maureen Brainard Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Costilla. So could he still be charged? Because these were LISK victims, Long Island serial killer victims, before we knew who the killer even was, alleged killer. Valerie Mack, Karen Vergara, unidentified Asian male, Peaches, unidentified toddler, the baby of Peaches, and Shannan Gilbert. Answers needed for those families, right? So I'll find that episode for you and link it in the description box. As I say, I'm going to link all the interviews I've just shown you, the articles, all my sources and everything. And I'm going to rest my voice. Thank you so much if you made it to the end, especially Durham. If you watched this from beginning to end with me live, thank you so much. If you're a replay watcher and you made it to the end, oh my word, thank you so much. And I will see you all again very soon. Let me know in the comments what you want me to discuss next, because there's so much to discuss in this case. For example, John Bitrolf. He was responsible or charged with 2 murders, which were very similar to how Sandra Costilla's remains were found. And allegedly, Sandra Costilla had 1 shoe missing, as did the 2 victims that John Bitrolf was charged with. He was a carpenter, right? Now, people thought he was the Maniville butcher. But could Rex Heuermann be the Maniville butcher? because he was charged now with Sandra Costilla's murder. So is John Bitroff wrongly accused? Yes, they had his DNA, but remember, there's different reasons for that. I'm not going to get graphic now. There were sex workers, and there could be other DNA, right? But it would be the timing. Wow, Rex Heuermann would have to be like shadowing him, basically. But there's so much to discuss, right? There's really a lot in this case. So based on what we discussed today, if you want to see, I don't know what, me go down another rabbit hole, tell me, okay? And then I'll do that. Thank you so much. Wish you all a wonderful weekend. Really appreciate it. If you haven't checked out my Patreon yet, there's documents on there. There's behind the scenes. There's videos of the cats. If you want to see more of Willow and Fury, there's a community chat. That's the place to best support the work I do. So thank you to everyone who's made it over there. Okay, everyone, I wish you well and stay safe, and I'll see you again very soon. Okay, bye.